about on a great day like this, and there's a lot of impact. So I'm going to be talking to you about navigating the course of the year. And it's important we have this, conversation on how to navigate the course of the year. 2025, I'm not here to hoodwink you, will be a year with its own challenges. For some, it's going to be very hard. For some, it's going to be good. But for a generality, it's going to be hard. The inflation numbers have just been given out. After December, inflation had bumped up to 34.8%. And that shows that you have a lot of challenges in the economy, in the state of play, and in everything that concerns the affairs of people. What does this mean? Probably when the CBN will have to have their monetary policy meeting, they might have to increase interest rates. A lot of people have argued, they should bring down the interest rates, it's affecting businesses and all of that. But the conventional wisdom in economics will say that, hey, the CBN will have to bump up interest rates to be able to what? To be able to challenge, this rising level of inflation. Others have also argued, what is causing the inflation? Straight off the bat, many things. Prior to this time, we had printed a lot of money. And when we printed a lot of money, when you have a lot of money in circulation, definitely too much money will follow few goods. That's one. Number two, logistical challenges is another one. A lot of logistical challenges. Food cannot get here because of terrorism and terrorist group. La Croix, we've heard of all of that. Lack of infrastructure and investment in the agricultural sector is another one. So today, President Tinubu said, he was going to bring in a lot more investment in the agricultural sector. They said they were expecting tractors from Belarus. They were going to cultivate 10 million hectares. We've not seen a lot of that. So supply chain problems. Most of these legacy issues over the years. All right? Also, removal of subsidies and all of that. All of these things have brought inflationary pressure one way or the other. What's the effect of this? Businesses definitely to increase their price. Minimum wage, yes, has increased, but it's not relatively better in the pockets of people. So people have to look for more money to chase too few goods. So as the last 2 years, 40,000 or 50,000 naira would go a long way. But today, 100,000 naira is just like 10,000 naira a couple of years ago. So it's going to be a challenging year. And every year brings its own challenge. These challenges are good. Some of them are bad. This challenge might have even affected your prospect of buying a house. You might just have been waiting to save the last couple of hundreds of thousands or millions to be able to put down, but inflation now has jacked up the same price. It's the same naira you have, but the value is worthless today. And you're looking at how am I going to navigate through all of this? And these are the issues. And guess what? These issues will never go away. They will always come, but you must also find a way to be able to navigate through them and hold your head up high. Number one, get information. Make sense of all of this. Because you see, a man that is not informed is deformed. And if you don't have information, there's no way your life can be a whole lot better. So the question is also, what's the quality of information you have? 1,001 people are talking in the room. Doesn't make any one of them correct. You must be able to get real information that tackles the pertinent problems you are facing and your business is facing. How do you get information? From dailies, from periodicals, things you have to subscribe to. And sometimes you need to talk to experts. You need to be able to get a true picture of everything. And no information is wasted. Honestly. It's about the capacity of getting information that makes you different from the other person. Because in all of this madness going on, there are opportunities. Opportunities will always abound in the world. But the question is, what's the capacity of information you have that makes you unique? So what are you getting? So number one, get information as much as possible. Look for information. Part of getting information will also be about changing your friends. There are some friends that they will never be good for you. You know they are not good for you. Friends that are telling you in this hard economy, let's go pop champagne, let's live wild and everything. Those are not friends. The question you should ask yourself is, what good does this friend do for you? What do they do for you? Yes, you might say, oh, not every relationship is transactional, but even if the person cannot give you something, at least they should give you good words. So you do not need friends that will dampen your morale and that will make you feel bad at this point in time. You need friends that are going to stir up a consciousness in you to be able to think. You need friends that are going to stir up a consciousness in you to be able to look for the overarching developments currently. You need friends that see the good in you that you don't even see in yourself as we speak. So see, part of also getting information is changing your friends, changing your ecosystems. There's some that after you listen to this tape, you might have to block them. And I'm saying it. You might just have to go out in your phone and block them. There are some people that have been liabilities in your life. Beg your pardon, I can drink some water. There are some people that have been liabilities in your life all this while, and all they've done is for you to be able to make bad habits. You might have to block them. You might have to take them once and for all. Yes, you might say, oh, it's going to be a difficult decision and everything, but trust me, if you don't try, you'll never know. That's just it. You know, if you don't try, you'll never know. So some you might have to block them, some you might have to take them out of your life and ensure that you only have people, one, that challenge you to your higher calling, two, that bring the best out of you, three, that know more than you. You also need people that know more than you, you know, so that they'll be able to challenge your thoughts. Four, that help you. How do they help you? With words, with advice, with information and all of that. So if you have a group and this group of people are not helping you, they're not making you challenge yourself, then you do not need them. So that's the very first one. Because see, for you to be able to navigate through the challenges of Nigeria of today, you need a proper mental health. And some people are not just good for your mental health. They're going to drag you back and they're going to make you feel very bad about yourself. That's their stock in trade. They don't want the best for you. In fact, they get scared when you do well. So because they get scared when you do well, they try as much as possible to bring you down. So get information, declutter, get some people out. Get some people out. Secondly, you must now start to work on yourself. See, the truth is, working on yourself means a total level of introspection. What is deep in you? What do you have? What are your assets? Have you ever done a personal SWOT analysis of yourself? What are your assets and what are your liability? For me, if I'm to do a personal SWOT analysis of myself, what are my assets? The capacity to work hard. I tell people, I said, you know what? When somebody challenges me, I'm excited because I know I can outwork them. What are also my assets? I have gifts in the arts, public speaking. I have gifts in analytical thinking. I have a long attention span. Yes, I can focus on something for a very long while. I like to get results. I like to get capacity. I like to build capacity. What are some things about me that are my liabilities? Probably, number one, I don't push as hard as I should be able to push. Maybe I don't believe in using influence and contact base as much as I should use them. You know, yeah. Maybe sometimes I could fight more, I could fight better for some things, but I just let them go. Maybe I'm too forgiving. I mean, that's one of my liability, you know. Maybe, you know, I like to give people a long rope. Some people that I should have cut off long ago. Those are my liability base. So, like that, you can take a personal SWOT and analysis of your life. So when you take all of that, then start to look for those that align with what you can give to the world. Because definitely you have something in you that you can give to the world that is building a lot of capacity around. So start to look for those that can align with what you can give to the world. You have a gift in the arts. Maybe you might go and fine-tune your skill. You might be drawing for passion and say, oh, I just like to draw. Maybe at some point you might have to put your artwork on an art site and sell your artwork. Anything to be able to get Forex. Yes. Yes. Maybe you might have to grow your scope and tell yourself that now you want to sell things more to a larger community. Yes. Maybe contacts that you've never pushed before. And I'm also talking to this about myself because I was taking a SWOT analysis. I'm somebody that I do a lot for people about it, but I don't demand a lot from people. In fact, I don't even demand at all. I hardly seek favors. So maybe I will have to push out my own influence too as much as possible and say, I need things to be done for me. Because see, I'm just that kind of person that I like to do a lot for people. I meet you, I help you. I help a lot of people. I can meet a random stranger and say they got a good idea. I say, you know what, okay, bring it on my Instagram page, I can help you. That's a page that is close to 500,000 followers, all organic, not one bot follower. It's something I could charge for, but I just feel like helping a lot of people. So maybe I don't demand a lot because I could be very altruistic. So maybe that might be you. At some point, you have to now start ensuring that you charge for almost everything. Because it's not you, it's the state of the economy. Because you see, when you actually look at the little pickings you leave on the table, then you'll be surprised how funny it is. How funny it is that you leave a lot of money on the table. That's just it. So maybe you have to start charging. Even if you don't need the money for yourself, you can open a sinking fund for your future. At some point you grow old where you will not be able to work as hard as before again. Even if it's not for now, your job might be okay for you. Open a sinking fund for the future where you put some of that money. So at some point you need to start charging. Enough of the free things. For me, that's one of my problems. I do a lot. In fact, I do too much for people. I do too much for people. See, in my short life, I have given so much of my personal resource. So much. I'm so giving. But it's the way I'm wired, and I feel that's my own connection to my God. I do it in giving, but maybe for you, if you are like that, you have to start charging a little token. Because you see, you make more from your giftings than from any other part. And it's so important that you're able to understand that God has given you something that you can give to the world. And it's not a bad thing if you make something in return for it. So when a friend says, oh, come and do MC for me, even if you're not charging them 1 million or something, it's okay, put an honorarium to it. It's time to say stop leaving the honorarium. Put an honorarium to it. Even if you don't want to charge them officially, put an honorarium to it. Something must come in. So the first thing is, no money must be left behind on the table. No money must be left behind on the table. 2, benchmark your spending with inflation. So if you used to charge for a service before and the service is 50,000 naira, obviously you can't charge 50,000 naira again. And please also, people that give people service that you do 2 things for you and you still want to pay 50,000 naira that you paid somebody 3 years ago. No. You need to benchmark your activities with inflation. Inflation is over 40%, I think, or over 50%, but they say it's 34% or 34.8%. So with everything you do, also benchmark with inflation. Your projections with inflation. So benchmark with the percentile of inflation. So truth is, if you have an amount of money with you now in your bank account, minus that percentage of current inflation, and in fact add some numbers more to it so that you know the actual money. So if you have 1 million naira in your account, 34% minus 1 million naira, that's what you actually have. 34% minus 1 million naira. So think in inflation territories. Think that your money has already been eaten away by inflation. That's the way to think at a point in time like this. Think like your resource, inflation had taken it away. So think like that. It helps with planning. It helps with planning. Number three, you have to cut some part of your lifestyle. There are some things you used to do before you might not be able to do again. You used to go to the UK twice a year. Maybe you might have to cut that and go to the village for holidays. You used to fly business, and that maybe you might have to fly economy. So some things you have to cut in your lifestyle. You have to cut in your lifestyle because you have to sink more funds towards things. And when you substitute the money, don't just spend it. Use it to get things. Okay, take for instance, you might cut the money at which you used to do XYZ, maybe your cable TV plan. You might cut that money and sink it into a health insurance. Because hope you know we pay a lot of money out of pocket in health in this country, in Nigeria. So you might sink it into that. So you must be able to cut most of those things. Maybe you eat out twice or 3 times a week in a restaurant, cut it down. Buy your vegetables. In fact, even vegetables are expensive. Just buy your vegetables, cook it at home. So cook more home meals that are healthy. And try as much as possible to substitute foreign foods with locally available foods. So take for instance, oats is readily available here. Maybe you were doing another brand of cereals. You might need to limit it, or you might just need to do fruits. It's also the time for you to be able to go organic. At a time like this, it's also a time for you to be able to go organic. Look for the best deals ever on items and products. And do not be quick to buy new stuff. So your phone, for instance, there's some people that say, I have to change your phone every year. Maybe if you change your phone every year, maybe you might leave it for every 2 years now. Because the phone you changed last year is not really too different from what you changed this year. So at some point, maybe you might have to leave it. You shouldn't discard stuff. Try as much as possible to repair stuff. These are how to live in very hard inflation times. Also, you might have to go to do-it-yourself websites and learn how to do many things. So there are many things you should be able to do use yourself that you can't take other people to be able to do for you, and you have to pay out of pocket. And these things are not easy. So you might be able to get skills. At some point in my life, many years ago, I was learning carpentry. But, I really regretted that I stopped now. And in fact, the person I was learning with had a university degree, but he still kept on doing it. So I'm not saying go and learn carpentry and hurt your hand, but I'm just saying you might be able to learn some do-it-yourself things at this point in time. Also, it is not every Ashwebi you will buy. So I was talking about friends and company that blackmail you and say things like, if you don't buy my Ashwebi, it doesn't mean he doesn't love you. Anybody that tries to blackmail you in this inflation economy by not buying the Ashwebi, know that person is not for you. Don't even bat an eyelid. Keep it moving. Keep it moving. Like I said at the start of this call, this sermon, there's some people you might have to block. And it's no hard feelings. It's just a fact of life. There's some people you might have to block. They've never been good for you. They'll never be good for you. So no matter how much you try the sentiment of keeping them, and I think the greatest sentiment is after you have tried and you have discovered somebody's regular bad pattern, and you keep making an excuse that it'll change. They'll never change. Maybe the time they'll change is when they kill you. That's just it. So maybe, because I can tell you that, they'll never change. If the person is not somebody that realizes their mistake and they are really ready to work towards it, you thinking they'll change is a real exercise in futility, because they'll never change. And I say maybe when they'll change is they'll kill you. And when people show you who they are, believe them, because they are not lying. So any friend that can blackmail you over Ashwebi and all of that, just keep it moving. Just keep it moving. Just keep it moving. And there are 2 ways to keep it moving. Probably some you'll have to ghost first. If they get the message, maybe they'll give them autocorrect. But if they don't get the message, maybe you might have to let them go. You might have to let them go. No hard feelings about it, Ghosting is the first level. And that's why I say, when somebody ghosts you, be happy they still like you. Because ghost precedes a block. So when you don't hear from time and please feel very happy when somebody calls you and say, you've not even called me in life, and they're trying to guilt trip you, and feel very happy to tell them, man, I ghosted you because you acted very bad towards me. And they say, oh, why didn't you tell me? I'm like, I ghosted because I expected much from you. I expected much from you. So please feel very happy to tell people that, I didn't like what you did to me, and I ghosted you. In fact, say it with all joy. Count it as all joy. Because the people you truly need in your life are people that understand and will help you navigate waters. So if they're trying to blackmail you and you're trying to explain your position to them and they're not getting it, just ghost them. Just ghost them. That's just it. Just ghost them. Because in this inflation economy, you don't want anybody that'll stress your medulla oblongata. You don't want anybody that'll do that to you. You don't want it at all. You're trying to navigate it. In the last 20 years, Nigeria has never had close to 20 years. Nigeria has never had over 34% inflation. So it's a territory that all of us do not understand. There's high levels of inflation. Most importantly, you might have to ask for another pay raise at work. Yes, that might be hard because even your boss is struggling and the company is struggling, but you might have to have another pay raise at work. And also, you might have to learn new skills because your company might have to downsize soon. So in the end, you might lose your job at some point. And see, it's also in Nigeria that will make it the end of the world when you lose your job. There's no big deal about losing your job. You lose your job, you get another one. That's just it. Could it be hard sometimes? Yes. So get other skills, because at some point you might lose your job. The company might not even be able to sustain its payment and everything. And if that happens, it doesn't make it the end of the world for you. It's just that there are many possibilities to life, and you can explore all over again, and you can start all over again. So when you have all of this at the back of your mind, it's not the end of the world, as it were, when you lose your job. Because, and also, prepare for the rainy day. Have a rainy day fund. When you lose your job, it might take you over a year to get another one. What would you be doing in the interim? Are you getting an insurance for that? In fact, I know Anchor Insurance back. I think Anchor Insurance used to have something like employment work scheme. We promoted many years ago. I don't know. You can check their website if they still have it. But some of it, if you lose your job, you might just have to depend on the money you saved. So the most important thing is, have you paid your rent up to date? And also, yes, that's another angle. So anticipate rent increases, because as inflation goes up, landlords will definitely raise their rents. So anticipate rent increase and also factor this. And that's why I say you can't leave any money on the table. So when in a case where you lose your job, a couple of things you want to quickly check. Monthly spending money, at least ensure that you have food in your house. Secondly, ensure that you at least have money to have fuel to chase the job and look for opportunities online. Thirdly is your rent, money for power. So please, you must also be able to keep a sizable portion. In fact, I tell people, I know the country is hard. I say your savings should be about 30 to 40% of whatever you earn now. Some people can even save higher. So you must have a way to factor things in. I know that's almost impossible, but any percentage at least save. Also be very careful at investment schemes, because you don't want, look at the risk before you put all your eggs in the basket. And for those that are doing investment, please remember that that's why you have very many portfolios. You have different portfolios. So you don't keep all your money in real estate so you get stuck. For every portfolio you have with investment, you must keep some level of liquidity. You must keep some level of liquidity. So if you have 100% portfolio, I tell people at least about 30 to 40% of them should be in liquidity, apart from maybe other assets like money market, treasury bills, federal government bonds, other money instruments, shares and stocks and real estate. At least 30 to 40% should be in liquidity. Because you have liquidity, You must have liquidity, maybe in emergency funds or subsinking funds you kept somewhere. You must have access to liquidity. So these are things you must also employ as you go through and navigate through this very crazy times. These are crazy times, but we will survive. And it's not going to be the end of the world, and we'll just keep pushing. And we must also call on our leadership and our government to do well, because they are also, failing a great deal. I mean, Nigeria has no problems going up to about 35% inflation rate if our leadership had thought through these reforms on time. And President Tinubu has not been circumspect enough to be able to take the feedback from the people. We keep saying, the reforms will be painful, it's like a childbirth. But people are dying. Lives are being lost. Statistics do not cut it. You need to hear individual stories. That's just it. You need to hear individual stories. So except you get that, then you'll never know it. So government too should be circumspect. At some point, you expect that they should give the people some leeway as regards these reforms. Yes. And they too should show working. A president of a devalued economy that is flying an Airbus A320? Are you kidding me? In fact, I need to check. President Tinubu's plane. That's an Airbus. That's a big... What does he need the size of that plane for? What does he need it for? And he flies that plane to meet other presidents, to give stuff to Nigeria, to give investment to Nigeria, and they don't fly a plane as big as that. The optics isn't right. So leadership matters a lot. Leadership matters a lot. And look at the senators, all of them are just thinking of big fat salary. And that's why I say the 2025 budget will not do anything unique. It's just like 2024. Look at what they're spending on recurrent expenditure. It's not going to go anywhere. There's no real capital spend on the people. I've checked through it. You can read through it. Over 2,000 pages. No project that'll fix the life of the people. Not much. Not much. Oh, build this, build that. Put money in this for government coffers. Build this, build that. What's the real impact? Nothing. So these are the conversations that we need to have. So leadership too must also hold sway in all of this, and we can only pray for the best. And most importantly, in times like this, do not forget God, that you have a Father in heaven. Take out time also to pray. And praying doesn't mean, lock the door and everything. You can pray in your mind. You can pray everywhere. You can pray anywhere. You can pray in your mind. You can pray in your home. You can pray on the bus. You can pray in your room. Prayer is a direct conversation with God, and it's a direct conversation that God, give me guidance, give me insight, make a way for me. So just say a word, dear Father God, help me at this time. Lord, give me guidance. Lord, open doors for me. You're the one that rules over the world. Heaven is your throne and the earth is your footstool. Make a way for me in these hard times. I cannot do this inflation economy in Nigeria alone. Lord, I want you to make a way. And help me. And he will make a way. Because he's the one that owns the world. And he will make a way. God will make a way when it seems to be no way. So don't forget also to pray. I hope these tips that will help you as you navigate through this economy. God bless you. Don't worry, I'm not collecting offering. Freely I was given, freely I've given back to you today. Share this. I just hope this blesses somebody. I love you more than words can tell, and I'll see you soon. Bless you.
Let us look at the oil industry. Ask yourself, who is extracting our oil? If it is in Gabon, it is Elf. It is Total Energy. It is Ruby. It is Shell. It is ExxonMobil. If it is in the mining sector, it is De Beers. It is Rio Tinto. It is Anglo America. It is Glencore. So that these neo-colonizers are present at all levels. If you go into the mining sector in areas such as uranium, it is the French, it is the British, It is the Americans. In other words, the world of industrialization is one that is being dictated to by outsiders.
One love, go Africa.
Hello, greetings, and welcome everyone, my dear friends, fellow Africans here in the continent, and to those who are in the diaspora. Industrialization in Africa is a critical topic that encompasses economic transformation, sustainable development, and socio-political growth. So today let's delve into its various dimensions, including its current states, challenges, opportunities, and the strategies needed to achieve meaningful industrial process. So, kings and queens, we have this lecture, and Professor Pierre Lumumba will learn this lecture about industrialization in the continent of Africa. So, welcome and listen from Professor Pierre Lumumba about industrialization of Africa, or industrialization in Africa.
To focus on the continent of Africa, today we focus on the critical question of the industrialization of the mother continent. It is always important that to realize that the mother continent is divided into 54 odd countries courtesy of the colonizers with their diabolical conference in Berlin in 1884 and 1885. When the struggle for independence started in earnest, the leaders of the day were quite clear that if Africa was to realize her potential, she had to industrialize. And we see these attempts at industrialization as early as the 1950s, when Gamal Abdel Nasser Hussein of Egypt nationalizes the Suez Canal. It is all about the attempt at industrialization. When he starts the Aswan High Dam on the River Nile, it is about industrialization. When he establishes the Helwan Iron and Steel Factory, it is all about industrialization. And the spirit of industrialization is made alive even by other leaders. Ghana's Kwame Nkrumah, after Ghana regains her independence in 1957, begins the conversation around industrialization. It is on that basis that he starts the major power project along the Volta River. And in 1961, on the occasion of the launch of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology in Kumasi in Ghana, the Osagyefo tells Ghanaians and Africans that our duty is to ensure that we industrialize. A year later, he institutes the Ghana Nuclear Project because he's looking towards industrialization. When the Osagyefo invites leaders in 1958 in Accra, Ghana, he talks freedom and talks industrialization. When he meets with the leaders in Morocco in 1960, it is about independence and industrialization. And in 1963, between the dates of 22nd and 25th of May, when they meet the 32 leaders, he reminds the leaders that Africa must industrialize, so that the whole idea of African industrialization and Africa's idea about marshalling their resources is something that has been with us. The very fact that they are establishing the Tema port in Ghana. In Tanzania, they are talking about the establishment of hydroelectric power, the building of the Kariba Dam. All these is about African industrialization. But as Kwame Nkrumah once said, the colonizers never change their DNA. They come under different guises. and they come under the guise of industrialization. Perhaps it is Zambia's Simon Mwansakwapwepwe who put it best when he said, those who have left as colonizers will come back as investors. How right he was, that no sooner had they left than they started coming back again. They came back again through neo-colonial institutions such as La Francophonie, neo-colonial institutions such as the Commonwealth. They came again under the aegis of the European Union and entered into agreements with African countries under the Lomé Agreement, under the Cotonou Agreement, and a series of other agreements that are put forth by the World Bank and the IMF. So that today, when we look at Africa in the spirit of industrialization, we must ask ourselves, who is involved in that industrialization, and is it in the best interest of the continent of Africa? And when I talk about industrialization, let me be broad to look at the involvement of the colonizers in the larger economies. Let us look at the oil industry. Ask yourself, who is extracting our oil? If it is in Gabon, it is ELF, it is Total Energy, it is Ruby, it is Shell, it is ExxonMobil. If it is in the mining sector, it is De Beers, it is Rio Tinto, it is Anglo-America, it is Glencore. So that these neo-colonizers are present at all levels. If you go into the mining sector in areas such as uranium, it is the French, it is the British, it is the Americans. In other words, the world of industrialization is one that is being dictated to by outsiders, begging the question as to whether this industrialization is for the benefit of the continent of Africa. And you know, when you talk about industrialization and the building of industries in Africa, you can never talk of it in spite of multinational institutions such as the IMF and the World Bank. The International Monetary Fund and the International Bank for Development, which is known as the World Bank, were created in Bretton Woods in the United States of America in 1944, and they have remained the hegemons in that direction. If there is any industry in Kenya, in Uganda, in Tanzania, in Zambia, in Senegal, in Nigeria, you will find them there. And all the dividends ultimately go back, if not all, but the lion's share of these dividends leave our continent. It is for that reason indeed that African countries, having seen the danger of that trajectory, met in Lagos, Nigeria in 1980. And when the leaders met in Lagos, Nigeria, they came up with the Lagos Plan of Action. And in the Lagos Plan of Action, African countries said that the situation as it is now is not favorable for the continent of Africa. We are not trading amongst ourselves. We have people from outside of the continent who are investing in technologies that we do not understand. There is no transfer of technology. The Lagos Plan of Action, of course, did not achieve very much. And it is after the Lagos Plan of Action that we have come up with Africa Agenda 2063 of 2015. The situation in the continent of Africa is one that demonstrates that after the political power had been taken away from the colonizer, what they are now focusing on is the economic power. And industrialization and indeed economic dominance manifests itself in very many ways. And I want to demonstrate, although it is not classical industrialization, to demonstrate how that dalliance with the Western power is present in our continent in very many ways. If you go to the mining sector and you go to the Democratic Republic of Congo. Who is mining in the Democratic Republic of Congo? It is Glencore. It is Rio Tinto. Who is mining in Botswana? It is De Beers. Who is mining in South Africa? It is De Beers. Who is extracting oil in Angola? It is ExxonMobil. Who is extracting oil in Gabon and Cameroon? Is Total Energies. Who is extracting gas in Mozambique? It is Total Energies. In other words, wherever you go, you find that there are all these Western institutions. And sometimes I say that if you want to see the evidence of their dominance, you also have to look at different retail happenings in the continent of Africa, because these are manifestation of dominance. If you go to any African country today and you want to go to a supermarket, it is Carrefour from France. If you want to go to a petrol station, it is Rubis or Total Energies from France. If you want to buy chicken, it is Kentucky Fried Chicken from Kentucky in the United States of America. If you want to have your food delivered to you, it is Glovo from Spain. If you want to order your taxi, it is Uber from San Francisco in the United States. If you want a security man, it is Gadaworld KK Security from Canada. The net effect is that African countries own very little, and our economies are externally dominated. And this domination is indeed the new scramble for Africa. Dambisa Moyo, in her book Dead Aid, tells us that as long as Africans and African leaders are walking around the world with bowls in their hands, asking for foreign investment, African countries will always be dominated. That great South Korean economist, Ha-Jun Chang, in his famous book, The Bad Samaritans, reminds us that no country in the world ever industrialized if such industrialization did not allow for transfer of technology. Industrial China has industrialized because in the 30 years that it changed its philosophy, they required transfer of technology. China did that. Japan, after the war, industrialized because it allowed and demanded transfer of technology. South Korea industrialized because it demanded transfer of technology. Indonesia is demanding transfer of technology. Vietnam is demanding transfer of technology. Turkey is demanding transfer of technology. But in the continent of Africa, we are not demanding transfer of technology. What we are calling industrialization is not for the benefit of Africa. It is for the benefit of those who are industrializing. Today, we have many initiatives. The Chinese are also here through the Belt and Bridge. But is it for the benefit of Africa? The Americans are starting the Lobito corridor from Angola through to Zambia. Is it for the benefit of Africa? I am of the view that the mother continent must industrialize. She must industrialize from Morocco to Mauritania, from Egypt to Tunisia, to the Democratic Republic of Congo, to Kenya, to Tanzania, to South Africa, to Angola and Mozambique. But the time is now for us to have our own energy, for us to have our own nuclear power, for us to have our own steel, for us to have our iron ore, for us to have our hydroelectric power like the ones in Ethiopia, the Grand Renaissance Dam and the Nyerere Dam. It is only when we take charge of industrialization that we are going to liberate ourselves from domination. Remember, as we speak now, there is a new scramble for Africa. That new scramble for Africa is telling different players that Africa is a theater where you can come in, and because you want cheap labor, you can place your industries in different parts of Africa, and you get cheap labor, and you then get cheap products, and Africa remains where it is. We of the African continent must always remember that as long as we are disorganized, we must always remember that as long as we are susceptible to manipulation, we must always remember that as long as we engage in conflict, as long as our leaders are dominated, we will never, ever industrialize in a meaningful way. Therefore, as we engage with the rest of the world, because engage we must, as we acquire technology from the rest of the world, that technology must be adopted and adapted for the sake of the continent of Africa. Africa must industrialize on our own terms. That is what total liberation is all about. The engagements about the continent of Africa are many and diverse.
Kings and queens, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, that was powerful lecture from Professor Piero Momba about industrialization in Africa. Let us look on the current state of industrialization in Africa. Africa remains one of the least industrialized continent, with manufacturing contributing less than 15% to GDP in most countries. However, there are signs of growth and opportunities. Raising middle classes, a growing consumer base is creating demand for manufactured goods. Natural resources. The continent has abundant raw materials, including minerals, oil, and agricultural products, which are often exported in unprocessed form. Emerging economies, countries like South Africa, Egypt, Morocco, and Nigeria have established industrial base, while others such as Ethiopia and Rwanda are making significant strides. Opportunities for industrialization, and of course, professors explained very well. Africa has opportunities and has unique advantages that make it ripe for industrial growth. Demographics, a youth population provide the labor forces and potential consumer markets, natural resources, vast reserves of minerals, oil, and the agricultural land, untapped markets. Many sectors such as technology, pharmaceutical, and renewable energy remain underdeveloped in the continent of Africa. And of course, we have the Africa Continental Free Trade Area offers access to a market of over 1.4 billion people, facilitating intra-African trade and investment. Let us look on the challenges to industrialization. Of course, professor has spoken very well. Despite its potential, Africa faces significant hurdles. Infrastructure, of course, this is a problem. Poor transport network and reliable energy supply and weak digital infrastructures hinder industrial